Morning, everybody. Will, just in time prepping. How you guys doing? I've been sick for a couple of days, but I'm going to try to get through this video for us this morning so I don't fall too far behind. Excuse me. We're going to talk about effective emergency communication for you and your family in times of SHTF. How wonderful it is, but it's got to be known. You have to know how to do it so that when the time comes, it's a done deal. So, there's 5 objectives to an effective emergency communication plan, and they are clear. These are the names of them. They're clear, complete, unambiguous, concise, and confirmed. Those are the 5 effective ways of having communication, effective communication. So, I'm going to go into each one of those individually so that you and I both understand what we're talking about here. So the first one is clear, and that's your communication has to get through somehow, and that they can clearly get the message when you're talking to them. Because in one of the other lessons we're going to get to, I'm going to tell you about coded messaging. So this is part of getting into the latter part, which is not going to be today. But that means that not only hearing it clearly, but understanding the intent of your message clearly. Excuse me. Remember that what you mean to say and what they understand could be 2 or 3 different things. And if you're not clear, they won't be congruent. Which means they'll wait for a second or 2 and try to figure it out. So by delivering your message clearly to your choice, by the use of the choice of your words, I'm sorry, I'm really not feeling too good. Your message gets across more clearly, and you'll notice it when you start using it. So like, I use the word medium. I did that on purpose to illustrate the subtle point in the communication. So your choice of words, however correct they may be, may not be the most effective. The word medium in this case means that the method of the transmittal of the information, like a phone. So, because it's not a word in general use, it's not really the best choice to be clear. This is especially important if you're communicating to a person who doesn't speak the language as fluently as you do, or through a means of communication that isn't clear on how it's sent, such as a radio broadcast. It could have static in it or something like that, and you may not completely get the message. So the next one is unambiguous. And if you've ever heard anyone meet you at the Circle K on Main Street at 4 p.m., if you heard somebody tell you to meet them at 4 p.m., you'd probably still be there waiting, because the phone call isn't very clear. It doesn't tell you what Circle K and what Main Street. So that's pretty obviously, but kind of a pretty obvious one there. So if you say that you'll meet them at Circle K at 956 Main Street at 4 p.m. today, well, then they would know exactly what you meant, and know exactly where you were supposed to be at the exact time. So really, you don't want to make the assumption that when you're talking to them, they know what you're talking about. You have to be as concise and as verbal as possible. Which brings us to the next one, which is concise. And concise is, once you've figured out how to get your message across clearly, you need to make sure that it's as concise as possible. So communications in emergency situations is sometimes spotty, and people have other things on their minds, such as getting out of danger and stuff like that, so they wouldn't clearly understand what you're trying to tell them. So it's important to be as concise as possible when you're talking to them. So you'd like to make your message as concise as possible, but not to the expense of clarity. So if you're saying something in a fewer words, but you can still get the point across, and that's especially true if you're going to be using it like a two-way radio. So the next one would be confirmed, and that's when you it's about an effective communication or skill, and they teach you these things in school. So if you learn about feedback, it's important to know that they've heard and understood what you said to them. So this is extremely important in communicating during an emergency, because once you break the comms, you'll both be on the same wavelengths. Merry ways, assuming the other, you'll both be on your merry ways, and that's assuming that the other is doing things based on the conversation that you had about being concise, clear, and that other big word I can't think of right now. So if your message is understood differently, wouldn't you want them to know that? Nod your head up and down, something like that. Status quo type of stuff. So those are the things that you really need to have. Emergency or bug out plan basics for your communications. So before you decide how you're going to communicate, you need to know what and when and how you're going to communicate. So for this, you're going to need to come up with an emergency plan, bug out plan, and take mom to the hospital because of contractions are 30 seconds apart or whatever. This is a family emergency plan. So let's assume that you've done everything proper, you've got a proper plan, but also assume that just because you make things simple in your bug out plan doesn't mean that the other party is going to understand what you're saying. So I'm saying that a proper bug out plan will have certain phrases. The phrases are designed so that once they're initiated, the individuals in the group, excuse me, sorry about that. So that depend on once they're initiated. Okay, we already been there. Each individual will have a certain focus on what they're supposed to do in their phase of that plan. So these focuses or foci should be planned out in advance and understood by all. So if you're going to use things like code words and stuff, you need to make sure that everybody knows that in advance. So if there's a fire and you grab the kids and you say, I'll grab the beer, then we'll both head outside, you would know that he's not really going to grab the beer, he's going to grab the kids. Something like that. So a plan phase is the separation or division of the focus of events by time, space, or purpose. These phases should support each other and be part of the progression from the beginning of the plan all the way through to its completion. Each phase should also have its own definition of the state of the phase and the end of the phase. So there should be no ambiguity as which plans or which phase you're going to be in. From person to person, it should all be the same. Phase 1 could be getting in touch with everyone to find out what their current location and status is. Phase 2 could be heading to the rally point. Phase 3 could be something like reaching out to the extended family and stuff like that. Or you can certainly complete the items designated for a different phase. And you should always try to use the same plan so that it doesn't deviate from the other, so no one really gets confused about it. And don't hang up on Grandma just because she calls after a tornado and says she's in phase 2. Okay. So essentially, if something has to get the ball rolling, right? Your plan will have to have a certain trigger will be something to initiate the plan. This is how they alleviate ambiguity and allow for individuals to operate independently as much as possible, cutting down the communication and coordination required. So these triggers would be well defined, and you'd want to start running for your bug out location because the TV loses signal, something like that. That's kind of a off the wall one, but it'd be just about the same, right? So once you've got the ball rolling and you're in the SHTF phase, at some point you're going to need to communicate with someone else. So this is when the first step of phase 1 is like, I like to actually call it phase 0. I reserve a phase 0 in my plan just so that I don't look stupid. Phase 0 is let's make sure that it's really the real thing, and it's not just a red flag. So I'm going to leave that right there for right now. I've already gone over my allotted time limit that I've set for myself. But tomorrow we're going to get into the basics of the emergency communication plan, where we'll be talking about who is to meet and what you're to bring, and things like what are your accomplished before you meet, and the general location of where you're supposed to meet, and a specific location where it's going to be, and things like that. That's what we'll get into in tomorrow's video. So I'm hoping that you got something out of today's video, and if you did, leave some comments down below. Let me know if I left anything out or was kind of hazy on anything. I'll be glad to get back with you and answer any questions that you might have. So, as you guys know, I've been sick for a couple of days. I'm still not feeling all that great, but we still have to have a drawing, so I figure I'm going to be doing a live broadcast on Wednesday anyway, so we'll do the drawing from last Wednesday, this Wednesday, but it will be the only time we do that unless I get sick again for some reason. But we'll just have that drawing from last Wednesday, this Wednesday, and then that'll take care of the drawing. And so I want to let you guys know about the Wednesday is at noon. We'll start up at noon. We'll try to run all the way till 3, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but we'll try to. So that's all I have for you guys for today. Make sure that you smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that now. And please share this information with your friends. This is something that could actually save their life down the road somewhere. So share the information, please. And then I'll see you guys tomorrow sometime, man. Thanks for showing up. You know, I could not do this without you guys. You guys really make this worthwhile for me. So God bless me, and God bless you, and God bless US of A. Till next time.